let me just first start by asking what APW does in general.
So yeah, pleasure to be here and great to meet you as well and to participate in the webinar series. So the Alliance to End Plastic Waste is a global nonprofit organization with the mission to end plastic waste in the environment. So we develop and deploy solutions with project partners on the areas of infrastructure, innovation, education and engagement and cleanup to address the challenge of plastic waste in the environment. We're really focused on action. So we want to participate and drive those actions on the ground with our project partners. But we also recognize that nobody can really tackle this challenge by themselves. So we've brought together the plastics value chain with member companies from all different sectors. And we've all come together to really bring a wider ecosystem of like-minded organizations that can bring the system change that's needed. So we work, as I said, to drive change on the ground. We work with project partners to develop and fund and ultimately implement projects in the areas of integrated waste management and circular plastic solutions. And today we have more than 35 projects in implementation around the world.
Great. Well, extremely succinct answer. Thank you so much. So the APW is really tackling a very, very important and I guess a big challenges that we are facing now. And I understand there are a lot of people working at the APW, and what is the specific role that you are playing at the APW?
So my responsibility is as Vice President for projects. So that means I have the responsibility for our entire project portfolio. That means the identification of opportunities that we wanted to go after to address this challenge, the identification of project partners and what we call sourcing of projects. We work then with project partners to develop those and our responsibility then is to oversee the implementation of the project. So my job is really managing this overall project portfolio from start to finish.
Right, so that's really the core of APW, I understand.
It is, yeah. So we're really a project-driven organization and we recognize that it's all about action on the ground to address the plastic waste challenge.
Right. And I'm curious, so the APW, as I understand, is a relatively new organization to really respond to this big challenges. But how did you personally get involved? And what was your story before joining the APW, and what triggered you to join this organization?
Yeah, great question. And it's something I'm really proud of, actually. So I've worked my whole career in the chemicals and plastics industry in different application areas, from automotive to consumer packaging to infrastructure. And I recognize the value that plastic products bring to many industries and many applications. And so it's really an amazing material, and it's something that is effectively the workhorse material of the 21st century. It's something that is going to be ubiquitous and necessary to really drive lower carbon solutions for society. So in my mind, plastics are too valuable to waste. And in too many places around the world, there's inadequate waste management systems, and it's led to plastic, what we call leaking to the environment. So plastic is not addressed in a waste management, it's ending up in our oceans, in rivers and so on. And so for me, that was obviously a very problematic situation working in the plastics industry. And I've been fortunate to live in a number of different countries, including in a place like Vienna in Austria, where was my last location. And I could see how effective waste management systems prevented leakage to the environment. And I really wanted to contribute to the improvement in waste management systems, particularly to get plastics out of the environment and into a circular economy. So we're really focused on that, and that was really appealing to me and the reason I joined the Alliance.
Wow, interesting story. So you talked about Vienna. So what other countries have you worked in the past?
Yeah, so I've been around the world. I'm originally from Canada, but I spent my career in Europe and Asia. So I've worked in Switzerland and the UK, as well as in Austria. And then in Asia, I've spent time in Hong Kong, in Thailand, as well as in Singapore, where I am today.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. So, wow, breadth of experience. Okay, so let me switch gear a little bit and then ask you about the PLAF. And as I understand, you need to, or you do look at a lot of project proposals, and I guess you need to really pick the most promising ones. And so what has been the process like to evaluate a PLAF project, and what kind of criteria did you use to evaluate?
Oh, great question. And it's actually one of the core things that we do, because since the inception of the Alliance in 2019, we've received more than 1,000 different proposals for projects from all different sectors around the world. So we do need a very stringent and effective system for assessing and choosing which projects we ultimately want to fund. So some of the things that we've looked at, and we look at in particular for the PLAF project, is really first and foremost, what is the viability of the solution that's being proposed? So how effective is it going to be in addressing plastic waste? What's also important is the strength and capability of the team or the organization that we're going to be working with, the ones who are going to deliver the project. We need to ensure that they can actually see it through. Of course, very important for us, being an industry-driven organization, is the economic viability of the project. So we want to make sure that it is going to be economically sustainable, as well as environmentally sustainable, of course. And that means that it can continue effectively after we're no longer present as a funder in the project. And another very important aspect is how scaling and replication of the projects. So we want to see proven, or help to prove solutions actually that can then be replicated in other geographies. And last important consideration is the organization going to be able to attract co-funding as well? Because it's always stronger when there's multiple funders supporting a project. So when we look at the PLAF project, we could see that almost all of these metrics were well addressed. There's a strong team. They have a very good business model that they're looking for. They've been able to actually address the challenges on the ground and really bring the solution that's needed in Manila to address the plastic waste challenge. And this scalability is something we're really interested in, and we see opportunities for them to grow their project as well.
Wow. It's a 30 plus project out of 1,000 applications. That sounds like really a tough process to really filter. Wow. So I guess the fact that the PLAF has gone through this very strict evaluation processes, I guess tells a lot about the strengths of PLAF. But what excited you the most about PLAF when you learned about this project?
Indeed, I mean, this project was interesting from the beginning, because it looked actually a little bit smaller scale when we first looked at it. But what we recognized very quickly was that, and what excited us indeed, was the fact that they have a holistic solution to plastic waste. So they weren't just about a cleanup activity. They weren't just about a recycling activity. They weren't just about coming up with a new product. They brought it all together in one project. So they've built out the collection infrastructure across more than 100 locations in Metro Manila. So they have a very good system for collection. They've done a lot in the education space and also engagement with the community to ensure that people understand how they can participate and bring their plastic waste to the collection centers, what kind of plastic waste is needed there, and what condition it should be in. Then they've set up their own processing center where they're washing and turning that plastic waste into flakes that can then be extruded into the planks and boards that are ultimately I would say the first level product that they're looking at. But they didn't stop there. They also are looking at solutions such as eco-shelter. So turning those planks and boards into actual shelters that can house people after disasters or as temporary accommodation. And now we see them expanding into other applications, including decking for outdoor areas, into outdoor furniture, and very soon they're going to start producing higher quality plastic pellets that can then be used in many other applications. So the exciting thing really is this holistic solution and the fact that they've presented something end to end that is actually quite replicable and scalable across the Philippines and maybe other locations as well.
Right. Yeah, I also had a strong impression on this end-to-end solution, and I remember Anne-Sophie was saying that when this industry of waste management is in an early stage, if you do one piece of the puzzle, it actually doesn't connect with others. So you need to really work on the different aspects to really solve the problem.
Indeed. Yeah, that's actually what we're looking at in many projects now, especially as we look to larger scale projects, is that need for not just addressing the collection, which is the most important thing to start, but then bringing it into a valorization, as we call it, creating value for the plastic waste so that there's an incentive to bring it into the system.
Yeah, and then I was thinking like, wow, this is really it's comprehensive. So that's great. But at the same time, I felt that it's a very challenging thing, right? To do so many different type of work. Collection itself is not easy, and sorting and washing. There's a lot of sub processes in each of the piece, right? So how did you think about this complexity at the same time, which I guess puts some challenges on the implementing team?
Yes, that's a very good question. And so when we looked at it, and it's actually something we look at in many projects, is are they stretching themselves too thin across many activities? But I guess given the size of this project and the holistic approach that they brought, it was manageable. And what we've seen is a very effective organization that they've put together. And even during this challenging times of COVID, they've delivered the project on time, on budget. They've been able to even get more creative in the end products that they're developing. And I think the advantage they have is they know their raw material, they know their end product, and they're able to put the whole system together to really bring that holistic solution. And they've also recognized that to get the volume of raw material in the quality that they need, they need to engage in this education and engagement aspect. So it's become part of their holistic solution to really capture these different elements at the scale that they can manage themselves.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, talking about this end-to-end kind of complete package that they provide, in reviewing these thousands of applications that are submitted to APW, have you seen anything that are similar to PLAP?
Indeed, actually, there are quite a few, and indeed we have a couple of other projects that we are supporting. For example, in Ghana, in Africa, we have a project with the Asase Foundation called Closing the Loop, and they are also in the mode of engaging more with the informal sector to capture plastic waste. And they have obviously a similar processing facility, and they're producing, again, the plastic flakes that are now being taken into downstream applications. In that case, they are not producing it themselves, but they are selling it to trusted partners who can process the waste. Indeed, we have seen quite a few of the projects which are in that space of valorizing plastic waste. And I think they're quite encouraging and they're quite inspiring situations, because typically we're supporting those projects in challenging environments. And in the case of Ghana, for example, the organization is really founded by women, and it's supported and supporting women in the community. So women entrepreneurs who are able then to provide for their families through the work that is created for them participating in the system. So these kind of things are also very appealing to us, that we can make a difference, not just on the environmental side, but also on the social side.
Right. Okay. It's very interesting that you mentioned this gender aspect in the solutions, and so as another son said that I have interviewed Anne-Sophie a few days ago, and then in a few hours I'm going to interview Francois, which I'm really excited about. And the one thing that I found it interesting was that Anne-Sophie's background, which is architecture, and which is, I believe, contributing hugely to this kind of a downstream process of building locally appropriate and useful buildings. And so what was your impression on the team of PLAF?
Yeah, I think this is a great aspect of that project. So I think they've put together a team of people who are, on the one hand, passionate about the PLAF, about what they can do in this organization. They've engaged with people in the community. So they've been able to kind of source people from the local situation to work in their factory and to support their collection activities. But they've married that together with the expertise that Francois has been able to bring from his background, as well as what Anne-Sophie is bringing as an architect. And I found it particularly fascinating, her background, because a big part of the solution for plastic waste is to get people to recognize the value in it and what can be made from it. And being an architect or being in a design field, it opens up your perspective to the use of plastic waste in many applications. So for me, that was a wonderful thing, and it's being proven in the different applications they're bringing to market. So whether it's park benches or even collection bins themselves, or the shelters and other accommodations or buildings that they're proposing. So I think a fantastic aspect. Strong team with very diverse experiences.
Yeah, I agree that diversity is really makes the team much stronger. On this, I'm actually curious, which was this question was not in the list at all, but just this conversation gets me interested in the type of people, the founders of those projects that the APW has approved already, 30 plus. What are the background of those entrepreneurs? Is there any patterns? Are they mostly engineers, or are they mostly a social activist type? Do you see any trends?
There is a bit of, what we look for is entrepreneurial spirit. So we're looking for those economically viable solutions and people who have a sense of a business opportunity to turn plastic waste into a valuable product. So we definitely have people from a business background. We have people who are passionate about their community, and they're passionate about where they come from, and they want to make a difference on the ground. We have people who worked in the industry, who've then decided in the next phase of their life they want to devote time and effort to addressing the plastic waste challenge. So a lot of the projects in developing countries are either very local or supported by people who are passionate about delivering solutions to these less developed places. We have other projects with established businesses and with entrepreneurs or startups that are really driving change through innovation and through new business models. So there's not really a pattern, but I would say the thread that runs between all of our project partners is a passion and a recognition that plastic waste has value and we can do something with it.
Right, great. Okay, so let me switch gear and then let's talk about Japan. Now, I recall, as another son shared, over 2 years ago, there was this conference in Tokyo, inviting 500 plus business leaders working in the plastic industry, and talked about these challenges and then the opportunities at the same time. And how does APW see a Japanese constituency I guess it's also producing a lot of using plastic related products.
Yeah, I think we've seen and experienced different archetypes in different countries, right? And I think, having been in Japan a few times myself and enjoy visiting very much, I've seen part of the ethos in Japan is a harmonious approach to things, and a recognition of the value of nature and the value of kind of holistic solutions that I think avoid waste and make sure that value and environmental value is also captured. So I think what we've seen is I think Japan can be a very important place for us to, first of all, to support activities that are driving those innovative and circular models for the future. Japan is obviously an extremely innovative country, and I think we can, in our industry, we can build from that in the space of recycling and circular economy. But at the same time, I think from a business point of view, businesses in Japan can also actually play a strong role in creating that circular economy. And not just in Japan, because obviously Japanese companies are tremendously successful around the world and can have such an influence on consumer behavior in many places, whether it's in the consumer goods space or in the automotive space and so on. So I think we see a need and a desire from industry in Japan to drive that circular economy thinking and consider that holistic approach to material usage and material selection. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you're from. We all have a responsibility to look after in business what we produce. So in the production phase or manufacturing, in the use phase, as well as in the end of life or disposal phase of a product. So I think that's something that's quite common across the world, and I think it's an area where I think Japan can play a leading role. And again, the area of innovative waste recovery and recycling and applying that innovative spirit to those kind of solutions would be very valuable. I think the benefit in Japan is there's very good collection, obviously, infrastructure. There's also very good thinking around segregation of waste. And I think we've seen examples in Japan of cities where there's zero waste because everything is perfectly segregated. And those are the models that we can apply in other places, and using that Japanese thinking towards resource management.
Great. So one of the objectives of these webinars that we are producing through these interviews is really to raise awareness among the Japanese business leaders on the existence of AEPW and then the work of AEPW, so that they can join this effort. And you have already mentioned a lot of kind of expectation from the companies in Japan, but do you have any messages for the Japanese companies as a AEPW representative?
Well, indeed, it's a great opportunity, and I think we've been very fortunate to have already 6 member companies from Japan joining the Alliance, some of the biggest companies in Japan. But we would love to see more companies joining us and joining our mission. It is really a collective responsibility across the plastics value chain to address the challenge of plastic waste getting into the environment. So we want our member companies and more member companies to be part of that solution. And it's a great opportunity to learn. It's a great opportunity to exchange and network and figure out what solutions are really working. So would encourage the Japanese companies to join us and participate in our technical expert groups, which are enabling us to develop and I would say roll out solutions amongst our projects, as well as being in part of the Japanese group, the regional task group for Japan, that is overseeing our activities in Japan itself and identifying those solutions that we could support in the Japanese context. So it would be great to have additional members from Japan and have that leadership in the Alliance as well.
Great. Well, I think I've exhausted the questions, and because I think your answers are all very succinct and to the point, I think we were quite ahead of time. But is there anything that I should have asked but I didn't ask, or any kind of additional messages that you want to convey to the audience of this webinars?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important is the role that each of us has in addressing the plastic waste challenge. So it's easy to look at it and say, well, it's somebody else's problem, but at the end of the day, it's all of us who are consuming, and it's all of us who are generating waste. So it's really to think about the decisions that we all make every day in our lives, and how we are addressing the waste that we create in our own day-to-day activities. So we need to be mindful, of course, of what we buy and the products we purchase, including the optimal use of materials. We see a lot of waste in the world in terms of packaging materials that are maybe overused, but also a recognition that plastic is in most cases the most effective material for many applications. It's effective from a carbon footprint point of view. It's effective from a water use point of view. It's effective from a functional point of view, given the durability and capability of plastic as a material. So it's important that we all think about that, and we think about the role that we have, and just simple things like being diligent in separating our waste, ensuring that we are minimizing contamination of materials, and that we're making it as easy as possible to bring plastic back into a circular economy. And that's really one of the key aspects of our own contribution as a citizen or consumer to address the plastic waste challenge. And also, it doesn't hurt to join cleanup activities. So in your community or in your associations, you might find these plastic waste cleanup activities on a beach or in an environment nearby. These are great activities, and it's an area where the Alliance is focused quite heavily with our Clean for Change initiative. It's also a great opportunity for member companies to participate and get their organizations together and to get people to take part and participate in addressing the plastic waste issue. So Clean for Change is an area where we bring focus with our member companies as well. So yeah, it's just everybody's responsibility, and if we work together and collaborate, I think then we'll be on our way to addressing this huge challenge of plastic waste in the environment.
Great. Wow, that's a very powerful message at the end. Thank you so much, Nick.